speaker. And it's a pleasure for me to introduce Mr. Craig Nesty, who is the Executive Director of the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, just as a brief reminder, who's going to talk to us about Dominica's digital advantage. But Craig, maybe before we start talking about all those ones and zeros that are flying out of Dominica to the rest of the world, can you give us an introduction to yourself and tell us a little bit about your role? Sorry, Craig, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
There we go.
So I was saying, I've been in telecoms for over 16 years. I worked with one of the major telecom operators back then, was Cable and Wireless, they're now called Flow, as a telecom engineer. And then I moved to IP and data manager for the region. Subsequent to that, I joined the regulatory environment, and I've been there for the last 10 years, well over 10 years, basically regulating the sector, ensuring that we have fair competition and protecting the consumer's interests.
Perfect. Craig, thank you for the introduction. Can you give us an overview now of Dominica's digital advantage and what sets Dominica, I guess, aside when it comes to its connectivity, perhaps with the rest of the world, and also the digital services and infrastructure that's available on the island?
Right. So Dominica is uniquely positioned in the Caribbean and is connected by 2 fiber optic cables getting offshore. One is the Middle Caribbean Network and one is the Eastern Caribbean Fiber System. They have about 200 gigabits of lit capacity right now, and they have a current end of life of 1.1 terabits. Currently, Dominica is using less than 20% of that capacity, and that capacity is actually doubled because both fiber networks would have similar capacities. We also implemented what you call an IXP, an Internet Exchange Point, which sort of makes the internet a lot more efficient. So a lot of content does not have to come from the US or from Europe. Once it comes into Dominica, once it's cached and Dominicans can access it. So the content ratio is about 1:5. So we can reduce the requirement for international bandwidth by about 1/5. So there's more than enough capacity for business process outsourcing to utilize the internet services for their activities. And what makes it even more attractive is the fact that a lot of our speakers in the past talked about nearshore. Well, the fact that you're so close to the US means that your latency is very, very small. Like I would have ping rates to California of less than 20 milliseconds. I mean, the physics of that is just speed of light. It would take you that much more time to get to India and other regions further afield, right? You also have direct and diverse access to metropoles from Dominica for different hubs that our fiber system is connected to, like Miami, New York, Virginia, Ashburn, as well as some places in Europe like Paris. So in all, our international connectivity makes us very, very attractive for business process outsourcing. On the domestic side, though, we have 2 fiber optic dual ring architectures running on the north of the island and the south of the island and interconnected in the middle. What that means is that you could have up to 2 breaks on the fiber network per operator and still be able to function. So with that level of network redundancy and path redundancy, it means that your operations would be very, very resilient, and it would safeguard your ability to provide services to your consumers. Right? Our internet penetration is greater than 90%, and that has been accelerated through the recent pandemics and other social events. So what that did was it forced a number of our students, workers, politicians to all adjust to the new trend. And it accelerated the outlay of internet throughout the island. Right now, our minimum speeds are about 100 megabits per second, and we've all migrated from copper networks and hybrid coax fiber networks to pure fiber networks. So we have only fiber to the home networks being deployed right now in Dominica. If we talk about the skill technicians that are on island, this is also a point that I should raise, because their capacity to deliver service is unparalleled. I mean, we had situations where Johnny Depp was in Dominica to film Pirates of the Caribbean, and he would have to do shoots in very, very remote locations. And I remember deploying internet services to Johnny Depp at T2 Gorge and on Batibu Beach. And Disney was very, very pleased with the efficiency and the speed with which this was done. And that just goes to show the tenacity, the capacity, and the skill of the technical team that's available. And on top of that, the SLAs they provide, the service level agreements for connectivity, is unparalleled. I mean, they manage and monitor the systems 24/7, and they always try to comply with the parameters set out in the service level agreements, right? I'm not sure if you know Daniel Langwa. He started a small company called Soft Image, where they provided 3D graphics and 3D animations to movies such as Matrix, Pirates of the Caribbean, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park. Well, he utilizes one of our operators in a very, very remote location on the island, where he's must be like 5 kilometers off the main road, basically. And he has built an eco resort out there. He works from there, providing world-class services to companies in New York, Canada, and further afield, right? So that's it from the physical infrastructure. But on top of that, we have an enabling infrastructure, like the regulations which are put in place to ensure that you have significant quality of service, consumer protection, the ability for you to exercise a dispute resolution mechanism if you're unsatisfied with anything that the provider has done or the provider has not complied with. So these are all enshrined within our Telecommunications Act, right? On top of that, we've passed a number of e-commerce regulations and pieces of legislation to help with things like electronic evidence, electronic filing, electronic funds transfers, and electronic transactions, which would make the process of you doing online transactions through Dominica very regulated and safe and secure. Or at least you have the recourse through the courts to ensure that anything untoward occurs within that medium, you have a channel to resolution.
Perfect.
Moving forward, though, beyond that, there's a project called the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, which is being put forward by the World Bank, which Dominica is actively participating in. The project has about 4 pillars. The digital enabling environment pillar, where we're trying to create the framework or enhance the framework to ensure that digital transactions and digital opportunities can be performed in areas like telecommunications, digital financial services, and cybersecurity. And there's a component that deals just with government services to ensure that our governments are more nimble and efficient in responding to consumers' needs. And so there are cross-cutting enablers throughout the government services that will be implemented through that project. And the part I think that you may be most interested in, though, is the workforce-ready digital skills subcomponent. So there's a big push towards ensuring that students, the populace of Dominica, have the necessary skills to participate in the digital economy. And finally, there's project implementation support from the World Bank itself, who's providing financial support, technical support to ensure that these projects get implemented. The good thing about this, though, is the projects are ongoing. They're still open to input. So any business process outsourcing organization who comes into Dominica may be able to effectively impact the direction in which these investments and technology improvements are going.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Craig. I have many questions specifically around Pirates of the Caribbean and the film industry, but we'll move on. So thank you for sharing those insights as well. And again, it really does speak to the natural beauty of Dominica alongside its digital attractiveness as well. So thank you very much, Craig.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.